The Bengals have lost their third game on the final play of an NFL game in the 2022 season. 2-3.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. I'm your host, Jake Liscow. He's your host, James Rapien. The Bengals lost. That's not great. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network here on Locked On Bengals, covering your team every day, free and available everywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube. This episode of Locked On Bengals is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they're going to score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. You're going to get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON at prizepicks.com with promo code LOCKEDON. All right, James, the offense did not click. And that's what we were talking about before this game. There was an opportunity in this game for the passing offense to figure some things out. The Ravens have not been a good defense this year against the pass. And instead, the lukewarm, tepid start to the year for this passing offense continued. Joe Burrow continues to not look like the Joe Burrow we saw last year for some reason or another. And we're going to be talking again this week about an offense that hasn't figured it out against 2 high defensive coverage structures. And I know you're sick of it, and that's where we are.
No, you know what I'm sick of? I'm sick of thinking that this offense is going to turn it around just in general. I don't give a damn if it's 2 high, 17 high. I don't care if Jesus himself is playing safety. They are too talented to come here at M&T Bank Stadium, where I still am, and score 17 points. What are we talking about? 17 points? Like, we're not talking about Brandon Allen throwing to Stanley Morgan. And, like, that's the offense that scores 17 points on the road. Not Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. You can't count T. Higgins because he either re-aggravated it or was battling through it, and I didn't really get clarity there on that ankle sprain, but clearly he wasn't right. But Tyler Boyd, does he exist, by the way? Like, too high, it should be like, okay, fine, well, 83 is going to have 13 catches. 13. And you're going to have to come down on him, and then it's going to open things up for Chase. Look, when they, after that first down on their first play, the offense was awful. Awful. It was awful to watch. They got nothing going. They couldn't get the run going initially. The pass game was not working right. You're right. Joe Burrow doesn't look the same. And I don't know what it is. You know, on the Patrick Queen interception, I asked, did you see Patrick? He's like, I didn't see him. I said, nope, didn't see him. Mm-hmm. Well, that's 3 points, and that 3 points is the difference, right? And there's a lot of those things, and, you know, Zac Taylor is going to take a lot of heat. Zac Taylor should take a lot of heat because when you're the play caller of a team that has Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, I'm not going to say T. Higgins, and Joe Mixon, who looked good tonight, Samaj P. Ryan, who I thought played well tonight, Hayden Hurst, who played well tonight, and you put up 17 points, you should get criticized for whatever the case is. It was the right look, or it was the right this, or you wouldn't criticize them if it worked. Okay, it's fine. But now it's 5 games of not working. It's 5 games of the offense being kind of at times showing flashes the past couple of weeks, but it was awful on Sunday. And if they had found a way to win it 17-16, a lot of what I said would still be said that way. It was ugly, and they do not look like a playoff team right now. They don't look like one of these contending teams, and that stinks because now it's October. We're talking about Halloween. We're talking about fall, and people are talking about, oh man, it's fall. I can't wait to cozy on up, pumpkin spice lattes and all that. Yeah, everybody's talking about fall now. Well, the Bengals are still playing like it's July. And offenses start slow in training camp, but it's not camp anymore. And you look up, and now they're 2-3, and that's a painful loss, Jake. It's a really tough loss that, much like that Pittsburgh Week 1 one, I think we're going to look back on that one. I think we'll look back on this one as well.
Yeah, at least in this case, Baltimore is not an objectively awful football team.
No, they're not.
The way Pittsburgh is, but neither loss is good. Neither loss is really excusable. And it comes down on the offense, and the offense comes down on Zac Taylor. The head coach is also responsible for the play calling. He's also responsible for getting the team into and out of the right stuff against the right looks or whatever it is. And after getting a ton of press man from the Dolphins last week in week 4 on Thursday night, when the offense seemed to find some plays, they found some explosives. We're right back to the same issue of there's this particular thing that isn't hard to do that everyone in the in the NFL is doing on defense that the Bengals still don't have answers for, that Joe Burrow still doesn't have an answer for, or Zac Taylor still doesn't have an answer for. And I'm not sure where exactly specifically the fault is. You can point to play calling at times. Absolutely. You can point to just general offensive design at times. These things all come back to coaching. You can point to the play of the quarterback. I don't think Joe Burrow has played well this year. I would say this is probably the worst 5-game stretch of his career, even with a relatively solid performance against Miami. He wasn't good tonight. He didn't really do anything. And, we have to watch the tape. I have to watch the tape. I have to see what was going on down the field. You don't get to see that on TV. But, after the first few drives, it was even painful after that. Even after they figured out the run and the gun, it was still painful. And that is the one silver lining, by the way. Well, there's 2 silver linings. One of them is the run game out of the gun. The other one is the defense. We'll get to talk about both of those, but it makes sense that we're starting and spending all this time on the passing offense because it's, again, a game where Joe Burrow is throwing the ball underneath. There aren't manufactured, easy matchups. There aren't manufactured open guys against these coverages. And these are the coverages that criticism is pertinent to, is these soft zone coverages. And when people talk about the Bengals offense being static, not using pre-snap motion to their advantage, not moving Jamar Chase into the slot or running him out a bunch to potentially create some conflict or some bumping into each other with defensive players, they're talking about it against these sorts of coverages. When it's press man like it was last week, I don't care if you're asking Jamar Chase to beat XYZ player or T. Higgins to beat Xavier Howard one-on-one. You have these great outside receivers, they can win one-on-one. But when it's these zone coverages, that's when it's on the coach to make it easy for the offense. That's when it's on your play caller. That's when it's on your design to make it easier for Joe Burrow, to make it easier for Jamar Chase, who had 12 targets for only 50 yards, to make it easier to get the ball to Tyler Boyd, who had only 4 targets for 32 yards, James, on 3 catches. And so for me, that's a big part of the criticism that last week I spent a lot of time defending because of what Miami was doing on defense. This week, that isn't the case. And it's easy to feel this way after a loss, after a close loss, after a divisional loss. It's easy to feel this way when we haven't seen the tape yet. But, Jamar Chase is even saying after the game in the locker room, yeah, they're clouding half the field. They're playing quarters on the other half. And if they're doing that out of too high the whole game, you need to have answers for that consistently. And they ran the ball effectively. That's great. That should have opened things up in the passing game. Hopefully that is the thing that happens out of this game. But for now, it's another week of the same stuff, James. And that doesn't even get to talking about the play calling on the goal line where they have 3 real head scratches on the 2-yard line. So, there's more we can get to here. But that is my rant about the specific criticisms about this offense that I thought played out in this game. And I don't have a defense for it all. Like I wouldn't even want to.
No, you don't. And yeah, we'll talk about that situation coming up in a second, because that's the scenario. That's where the game was won and lost. That's where it was. Not when you went up 17-16, because guess what?
That's another problem. Was the time management in that part of the game?
I told Trags, I was like, they're going to lose this game. They're going to go down and score when it was 16-10. I was like, they're going to lose this game. They're going to take the lead because they're resilient. And then Lamar Jackson's too good, and he's going to get 40 yards, and Justin Tucker's going to do what Justin Tucker does. And that's what happened.
Took too long.
Yeah, it's this offense, it's just unacceptable. So all the criticism, I don't care what the tape says. I really don't. And I get it. We're going to do a tape. I don't care. You know what I care? It's 17 points. It's not enough. So figure it out. And they better figure it out, because if not, Taysom Hill, well, he's going to put up big numbers on him, I guess. I don't know. And we could get to the defense. Hey, dude, I'm just saying, the Saints with freaking Taysom Hill can score a bunch of points. Taysom Hill. All right.
Yeah.
I watched it, and the Lions were awful this week, but scored a ton of points with Jared Goff at quarterback. Like, what the hell are the Bengals doing right now? That's the frustrating part. And the most frustrating part, I think, for fans was that goal line scenario at the end of the third quarter. We will get to that coming up next. But first, a word from PrizePicks, because PrizePicks is daily fantasy. And whether you want to take Patrick Mahomes or roll with a Derrick Henry, or maybe it's a Cooper Kupp, any of the stars, the way it works with PrizePicks is you pick 2 to 5 players, and you decide if they're going to score more or less than their PrizePicks projection. Our guy Stan the Man, I know he's a regular listener. He's won a lot of money with PrizePicks by doing just that, and you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. You're not competing against other people. It's you versus the projection. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch, obviously NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, PGA, college football, and so much more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less, and withdrawals are safe and fast. Download PrizePicks or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, you're going to get $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $50, you'll get $50. Again, use promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100 with PrizePicks.
You're right that 17 points is the bottom line. I still think the tape has answers here, and that's why we do the tape episodes, right? Bottom line is the offense needs to be better. You can't start the game with 4 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Can't do it. You can't go in the second half and have Joe Burrow throw a pick against cover 4 out of play action because he doesn't see the linebacker. And then you only get 2 more possessions in the entire game, and you take 28 plays to go 148 yards and get 1 touchdown out of it. Mm-hmm. So time management, definitely something that I want to talk about here at the end of the game, because when both teams have 3 timeouts, you think you're going to use 9-10 minutes at the end of the game? They take 7 minutes and 44 seconds to go score that touchdown to go up 17-16. But at some point, when you started to get close to scoring, and I know that like Burrow a few times was looking for the kill shot on that drive and had to check it down. I could see it, that he's looking downfield, it's covered, he has to check it down. But there needed to probably be a sense of urgency there. They're running the play clock down. They're using a lot of time on this drive, where you're right. All the Ravens have to do is get to like the 50-yard line, and Justin Tucker's kicking a field goal to win at home. Mm-hmm. And instead, you could give yourself a little bit more time. So like, I thought time management on that last offensive drive was not great. But before that, on the second to last drive, the pick play, I don't have a problem with the pick play call on 1st and 2. Hayden Hurst thought he got held. Probably did get held. Not always going to get that call. But then they go Philly special. Everyone's seen that play. As many people have pointed out on social media, everyone's seen Philly special a million times. And then they get some yards back on 3rd down. They go for it on 4th and 2. So here's a decision. They can kick a field goal. They can go for it. They go for it. Honestly, don't have a huge issue with the decision at this point. But then they go with this shovel pass to Stanley Morgan. You can argue, yeah, Lyle Collins is supposed to get in there and lead block. You can also argue that, yeah, the entire NFL has seen this play too. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they're preparing for this in this spot at the 2-yard line in 2-point conversion situations. You have these guys, you have a quarterback whose strength is reading the defense quickly, getting the ball to where it's supposed to be. And you're kind of taking that away from him on both of those plays. Don't love that.
I hate it. I hate it. The shovel pass should never be called for the rest of time. Ever.
Especially literally, not on 4th down.
Never. I don't. I am. There is no more. Honestly, and I would say that if it worked, this is not hindsight. A shovel pass, and I don't care who it's to, because it really doesn't matter. It's a shovel pass, right? Are you kidding? And you can yell all you want and be mad at him because he didn't lead block or do it. I don't care about the execution. A shovel pass, that's the plan. Sometimes people have too much time and overthink it. And I just think Zac Taylor overthought it. I really do. It's 1st and goal at the 2. Score. Joe Mixon was running the ball well. Score. And I agree with you. The first down play, Hayden Hurst might have scored if he didn't get held, and he did. And he was upset about it and animated about it. But guess what? You're not going to get every call. The Philly special play, man. And Mike Thomas would have been open like another half second. He would have been. But Burrow was covered, right? Like that's a tough one. That was a
It's just too out there. Teams know what it is when they see it.
Well, and it is this like, here's the thing is like, when you're doing stuff like that, you're doing it in the Super Bowl because you have Nick Foles and they have Tom Brady. Right?
Yeah, these are fine play calls if you have Brandon Allen at quarterback.
Sure. Yeah. Trick everybody. Smoke and mirrors. Guess what? Joe Burrow shouldn't need smoke and mirrors. And I don't think they did. Joe Mixon, there shouldn't be a need for that in this scenario especially. So, look, the element of surprise, you can argue that. But, yeah, the 4th down, have no issue with them going for it. I don't. But here's when I do have an issue. If you're going to decide to go for it and it's kick a field goal or shovel pass, there will never be a time for the rest of my life and even before this play. Always you roll with Money Mac. I don't care if it's a 24-yard field goal, a 50-yard field goal, a 62-yard field. I don't care. If it's shovel pass or field goal attempt, I 100% of the time, 100%. This is the James Analytics talking right now. James Analytics, guess what? 100% of the time, I'm kicking the field goal with Evan McPherson. And so that's the problem to me is when people say, oh, well, going for it, it gives you this percentage chance to win versus this percent, and it changes it. That sounds great, okay? And that's awesome. But now take into consideration whether or not your play call was dumb, okay? And then that changes it, right? Because if you would have inputted into the analytics and then the James Analytics calculations, and it was, shovel pass, well, guess what? Things changed a bit. The math changes there a little. That's the part of it is when you decide to go for it in that situation, part of it is you feel like you have a play for that situation. Mm-hmm. And that was not a play that should have been anywhere near that situation. And I think a lot of people feel the same way.
Yeah, I probably agree. I think that the thing about it for me is that that's not the decision you're making. Like if that is the decision you're making, you're right. But that's not the decision you're making. You're deciding, do you want to kick a chip shot field goal, which, by the way, was not a given for the Bengals after there was a high snap that led to an extra point to take the lead, almost being missed, got pushed right over the right upright, which technically is good. But if it had been a few feet lower, would have doinked off the upright. So not a given on a field goal, but the choice is you're kicking a field goal versus you're trusting Joe Burrow to make a play. And the ball was taken out of his hands on all 3 plays the Bengals called from the 2-yard line. There's a pick play that's always going to the pick play. There's not really I shouldn't say that. I don't know what the backside of it was, but it's probably always going to the pick play. There's a Philly special. Joe Burrow doesn't get to make a decision to throw the ball there. There's a shovel pass. So that plus the situational stuff and the way they ran that that last offensive drive of the game, the amount of time taken, just, you're setting yourself up for exactly the way the game ended. You haven't stopped the run the whole game on defense. DJ Reader's absence sorely missed. The defense generally played well. They couldn't stop the run. Baltimore had 3 timeouts. Baltimore completed a couple passes to Mark Andrews and ran the ball with Lamar Jackson and got the easy for Justin Tucker
43
field goal. And the Bengals didn't really have anything to say about it because they gave up a first down and then the clock was in the Ravens' hands. So we didn't talk about how good the run game was. I do want to get to that. I do want to talk about this defense a little bit more. So let's finish the show with a few positives and some things that they can potentially build on, because there's a lot of questions that they have to answer. And we'll finish there coming up next. But if you haven't tried the Built Bar Puff yet, or Built Bars in general, I don't know where you've been. James has been talking about these and telling you how great they are for years, literally. And you should just get on board. But there's a new flavor of the Built Bar Puff, the cookie dough Built Bar Puff, covered in chocolate with real cookie dough chunks. And I'm not talking about just some sort of snack. This is a protein bar. Only 160 calories and 15 grams of protein in a chocolate covered cookie dough chunk puff. I mean, we're talking about dessert. 15 grams of protein, 160 calories. How do you beat that? Got that real chocolate on there. Love how they taste. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff. Whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just a quick bite, Built is a perfect protein bar, and they taste better than the candy bar anyway. Go to built.com. You're going to get 15% off if you use promo code LOCKEDON15 right now. That's promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off your order at built.com.
Now I got to tell you about Schultz and Sons, which we're ecstatic to be partnered with Schultz and Sons. And it's not only a Cincinnati tradition, but they're a part of an exclusive club. They're a member of the American Gem Society. They're also a member of the Non-Shovel Pass Society. What is AGS, the American Gem Society? It means that not only can they sell you a beautiful diamond, but they have the knowledge and the training to make sure you get the top quality as well. Only 1 in 20 jewelers are in this exclusive club. And it's one of the many reasons why you got to get the Schultz and Sons, whether you're looking for custom made jewelry, whether you're looking for just the exact piece that she's going to love, whether it's earrings, whether it's a hot take chain, whether it's a I hate shovel passes pendant, they have you covered at Schultz and Sons. Matt and his friendly staff know a lot about jewelry. They're also big time Bengals fans. And I'm sure I speak for Matt when I say no more shovel passes. So come visit Schultz and Sons. They're a Cincinnati tradition, located in the Kroger Expressway Plaza in Fort Mitchell, right off the exit on Dixie Highway in Fort Mitchell. Plug it into your GPS, 2202 Dixie Highway. They have free parking, easy to get in, get out, and be on your way. When it has to be perfect, it has to be Schultz and Sons.
Let's hit a couple positives, James, before we get out of here after just one quote. One more negative. Sorry, guys. Joe Burrow said in his press conference after the game, there's just nothing down the field if teams are going to play us like they did today. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to read that in a quote beside Joe Burrow's face. And that's my only thought about that. I don't like it. There's got to be stuff down there. There's always stuff down the field. Somewhere there's something. And even if it's not like 30 yards down the field, maybe it's 15 yards down the field. Find the intermediate game, because that really should be there. Like if they're going to play cover 4 and drop everybody deep, you're going to get first downs like they got at some points in the games with check downs where guys are that far off. But if they're playing cover 2, if they're playing cover 6, there's intermediate stuff out there. So anyway, there's stuff down the field. It doesn't all have to be, passes at the line of scrimmage. It doesn't have to all be screen game. There's so much screen game, and that did help with the run, but I don't like the quote. And I hope that, they do some study and they find something.
Well, yeah, here's why. Is because if that's it, if it's like, oh, well, they're doing this, we can't do it. Well, then what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, it can't be that simple. Okay.
It's not that simple.
And I know, but it can't be that easy to beat this Bengals team with all this firepower. Oh, ran too high. I mean, if they're doing that, and I just got to dink and dunk and hope Samaje Perine breaks 3 tackles, which he did a lot tonight to get first downs and just runs over guys. Like, really? Like, come on. So, And with that, it's a good way to segue to the running backs. Running backs. I could go negative for another hour. All right. So the thing is, we have a week of shows and plenty of time to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. Let's talk about a little good. Joe Mixon looked pretty good. Samaje Perine looked pretty good. This run game, signs of life. It has a pulse, Jake Liscow.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me here is that it was working from gun. They kind of said, you know what, the wide zone stuff isn't working today. They tried to toss early in the game, didn't work. They tried some crack plays early in the game with wide receivers trying to crack block defensive ends, didn't work. And then they adjusted. And that was great to see. They stopped doing that stuff. It took a little bit longer than it should have. Took them 5 drives to get there. After the first 4 drives of the game, it was all right. Don't run the ball the rest of the game. Drop back every play. If you have to use the passing game as an extension of the running game, fine, but stop running the ball. Then they figured it out. And what they did is they started running instead of the zone stuff that they really like, and they've tried to build this offense around for Zac Taylor's entire tenure in Cincinnati. It seems like they've only gotten right for a handful of games here or there. And this offensive line has not been great executing wide zone or split zone from under center. They went in the gun and they started running duo. They started running power. They ran counter, and it was all working. And so I'm excited to see the tape on that stuff and see how clean it was. But Joe Mixon, it felt like, got downhill much more decisively than he had in previous weeks. And while, I would still like to see Mixon breaking some more tackles, looking a little bit more bursty than he did, he generally played pretty well and found some of the yards that were there, which we haven't seen consistently this year. 5.5 yards a carry, that's pretty good. And Samaje Perine in his 3 carries, also 5.5 yards a carry, a little bit more, 5.7 yards per carry. And that speaks to an offensive line that's finding, or for one game anyway, found some success. And this is what was really surprising to me about this game. Coming into the game, I thought advantage passing offense, disadvantage rushing offense. I thought Justin Madubuike, Elias Campbell, this Ravens defense would be good enough, but they just were daring the Bengals run the whole game. And for once, the Bengals punished a team for continuing to drop guys back into too high, and they ran the ball well. And that's where their points came from late in the game, as drives that were set up from the run. And now there's some things frustrating about that. We'll set that aside and just think about the fact that they found something here in the gun running game. Burrow talked about it. It took a little bit too long. Like he said, it didn't really find it until late in the first half, second half. And they can build off that with the play action game out of the gun. If you're running out of the gun, you can build off that with the play action game out of the gun. I would like to see that. So that was one thing that was encouraging in this game. And for the most part, they stopped going under center at that point, which is what I wanted them to do. It's like the under center game is not working tonight. Burrow's pick, I think, was under center on play action. Running game wasn't working under center. Passing game wasn't working under center. And then they mostly went to the gun for the rest of the game with a handful of under center plays mixed in.
Yeah, and I'm not going to turn the positive into a negative, but I do have to tie it together because I can feel people listening. The fact that the ground game does get going and you're on the goal line and Mixon doesn't get touches, touches. It's even in the moment, like one of the best things that they had done all day on offense was that. So that said, there really isn't any negatives to say about this defense, man. I mean, if you would have told me,
I got one if you want me to, but let's not.
Yeah, I mean, you can in a second, but if you would have told me 19 points, and they weren't perfect, but 19 points tonight, I'd have said, sign me up. Let's go. Let's roll with it. Now, the negatives would be, man, Devin Duvernay. It's just, why is he so slippery and just finding ways to get him the ball? And the Lamar Jackson, if he could just drop the ball anywhere close to his receivers in the third quarter there, the game would have been a little different because they would have scored a touchdown, and he left one out there. So overall, though, the defense I thought played well. This is a tough matchup, I think, with the way the Ravens wanted to run the ball and not having DJ Reader. You certainly missed that, but I thought they hung tight. And if you would have said 19 points, I would have taken it. Now, it should have been 26, and then it changes things. But they escaped with 19. So overall, good effort by the defense.
Yeah, who knows what it should have been. They get the turnover on downs where you're right. Lamar Jackson misses 2 deep passes, one to Devin Duvernay, one to Tylan Wallace. Both on, well, one of them was just, Duvernay getting behind the defense. He gets Von Bell, and then there's a bracket, I think it's probably quarter, half, and there's a bracket from Eli Apple outside trying to run with him, and neither of those guys run with Devin Duvernay, and Lamar Jackson barely overthrows it, but the other one was a bad miss. Tylan Wallace just getting behind Eli Apple over there. The other thing is the run D really felt the absence of DJ Reader. Lamar Jackson played poorly tonight in the passing game. I thought 19 to 32, 174. Defensive line, though, played really well, really disruptive, I thought. Trey Hendrickson this close a couple times, man.
Mm-hmm.
Really close to really changing the game. Jermaine Pratt batting that pass up in the air, almost had a pick. I mean, the linebackers in general, the linebackers, Pratt and Wilson, both as spies, came in there, got some good hits on Lamar Jackson. Didn't let him get loose too much as a scrambler. But then, the run D was problematic. That's the wart on the game for the defense is they couldn't really get the run stops when they needed to. And if the Ravens had just been more patient with the run and just ran the ball the entire game and leaned on that more than they did, they had 28 carries, 12 of those Lamar Jackson. And J.K. Dobbins is on a pitch count, so maybe that's part of it. They don't like their depth. I don't know what it is, but there was a lot there that the Ravens could have capitalized on that they kind of didn't when they started throwing the ball a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments on the defense from me, James, would just be really like Lou Anarumo's third down packages early, getting Dax Hill on the field, using Cheeto on Mark Andrews and man coverage. I thought that was clever. I don't know where that went. Later in the game, it was Mark Andrews against Trey Flowers. I don't know what changed there for Lou Anarumo, but I thought Dax Hill, nice play on Isaiah Likely at one point in the game. Cheeto on Mark Andrews, I think, is creative when you get when you get those heavy looks, those extra tight end looks from the Ravens, and I like that from the Bengals. And then the other thing was the end of game. This is a third end of game situation where the other team has needed a field goal to score, and the defense hasn't really been up to the task. So if you're gonna pick at anything, it would be those end of game situations, the run defense tonight. But generally speaking, I thought the linebackers played really well. I thought the front played well. I guess specifically Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard played really well as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shout out to Dax Hill. How about that? Yeah. Getting out there, making a big play, third down against the fellow rookie, but still, yeah, it's good. That one had to feel good, but yeah, it's third time in a row now, third loss in a row where it's this last second, just, heartbreaking type fashion. And you're right. The defense, you want them to get a stop. It's just in today's league, you see it. It's just, did you have any doubt Lamar was getting those yards? I didn't. This wasn't a 5-story game, to me. Yeah. I wrote, I had a lead in, about the Bengals potentially winning. And then the moment there was 2 minutes, 1:58 left, I'm like, oh no, the Ravens are going to win. And I completely changed my story around. And then that was it. And,
there's too much time left for sure. And as soon as the Ravens got the first down on that drive,
right away. Yeah. Right away. And it's like, oh, okay. So this is how it goes. If you get them to 3rd and 10, it feels different.
Or even 3rd and 7. The longest third down was 3rd and 2 on that drive.
See. So there's some criticism there. And honestly, look, this team, no one's playing perfect. Mm-hmm. No, there's nothing that I'm like, man, they can't get any better. They have a lot of issues and things that they have to fix. Also, shout out to Von Bell, man.
Yeah.
Look at him. Just he's going to wake up at 4 a.m. and get a lift in. He might not even go to sleep tonight. He wakes up so early. That dude really sparked them. I mean, without that interception, they may go down. They were already down 10-0. They may go down 13-0 or 17-0. And instead they flipped it and it was tied at halftime. And I think it had a lot to do with his play.
Whole lot of really nice open field tackles from Von Bell as well. Also, shout out generally tackling on Lamar was pretty good for most of the game. Last drive, again, notwithstanding here. As soon as the Ravens started running the ball on that last drive, though, didn't feel great. Zach Carter, one great tackle on Lamar Jackson when he steps up to scramble. Trey Hendrickson had another one, just getting enough. So some things to like about this defense, some things that the defense certainly can build on the next time the Bengals play the Ravens in Week 18. Man, that still feels Week 18. Right? Yeah. That's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. It's getting a little bit late, and I don't remember how many weeks are in the NFL season right now. It's 18, right, James?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, thanks. That's going to do it. We'll be back tomorrow. More coverage on this game. We'll get into some film this week as well. Until next time, Bengals fans, hoo-day, and have a good one.